Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Food Foundry Speaker Series. I'm your host, Monty Nile, and this is a production of Sierra Commons. Sierra Commons is a business igniter. We do education for small businesses, for rural businesses, and especially for food businesses. I'm the facilitator for Food Accelerator 101 and Food Accelerator 102. Food Foundry is a series where we get to interview really interesting makers, chefs, trendologists, food scientists, just all aspects of people in the food industry. And so tonight, my guest is Charlie Ayers. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Thank you, Monty. How you been?
I've been very good, and of course, your resume humbles anybody. You're a graduate of Johnson and Wales, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to talk to you about that because I don't actually know a lot of people that went to culinary school. You're the former touring chef for the Grateful Dead?
Yep. They were one of my longtime clients. Yeah.
And somewhere in there, you worked at a lot of restaurants to get good at cooking, but then you won a cook-off contest or something judged by the then 40 Google employees,
Yeah. Yeah.
which, okay, so then you get that job. And when you left 6 years later, how many employees did they have?
10,000.
Okay, no stress there. Cooking for 40 to 10,000. And then you were operator of Califia Cafe in Palo Alto for 10 years.
Yeah. Calafia. Yeah.
Okay, I'm exhausted already just thinking about all this. So, okay, well, let's start like I just said at the beginning, Johnson and Wales. Tell me about going to culinary school and what your motivation was there.
Um, right before I went to culinary school, I'd been working for Hilton Hotels for 3 years after high school. And I was constantly being passed by culinary school graduates at the hotel that
Uh,
knew less than I did. And I had not been to school yet. And the executive chef there at the hotel said to me, well, you know what? Go to school, get that piece of sheepskin, come back and be their boss because you know more than they do. So that was my motivator.
okay. Okay, well, let's go back a little further than that. Do you have a first food memory? I mean, not in culinary school. I'm talking,
Yeah.
you know,
Um,
cradle, childhood, grade school, whatever.
my my parents told me this, and after I reflected and thought about that. I said you would just go into the pantry of our kitchen and start taking ingredients and mixing them together, and these were our groceries that we were going to eat from. And my mom had told me, and she's like, we could see that there was something there for you
Yeah.
that you truly loved. So we didn't get upset that we just lost a week's worth of groceries. Um, that was the 70s in Brooklyn. So I, I I've just found all the different textures and tastes and flavors that existed in every kind of different food that I was able to get my hands on. And that was before I realized that I loved art. So the culinary world really spoke to me because I loved art and history as I had gotten older. And I found that both those elements existed in culinary. Much of the foods that we have today, we wouldn't have had different nations not conquered another nation and then spread those ingredients along the way.
Yeah.
So I found that to be very fascinating.
Well, it sounds like you grew up in a family that cooked.
My mom cooked out of necessity because my dad's family they were in the business, and so it was something that she didn't do out of love. I have to feed the family. Um, but growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, all my friends' mothers were amazing cooks. And I would go home. I'm like, why don't we eat like the Venezias? Why don't we eat like the Weitzmans? Why do we eat? She's like, well, I don't know how to cook that. But I would go to their homes frequently for foods, and just I found it absolutely amazing the connection that family and food and
Yeah.
tradition all had together, and they embraced it and perpetuated and continued it.
Yeah. You mentioned your dad was in the culinary world.
My dad's father had a diner.
Ah.
Um, my dad does not like the business whatsoever and doesn't see the value. He doesn't see what you and I see.
Yeah.
So, he was like, you can do whatever you want, go to college, whatever you will always support you. What is it you want to be? I want to be a chef. No. But he saw I was good at it. And then,
Yeah.
when I received scholarships to go to Johnson Wales and
Okay.
tested out of the early programs, so I didn't have to spend all the years that other students did. I was able to get 3 degrees in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just, they were always supportive. And yeah, he doesn't cook. My father does not cook at all, even till this day.
Yeah.
Um, so he does appreciate people like myself, but when it comes time to eat, but
Yeah.
he doesn't. He's like, food should not be expensive. I'm like, well, there's many factors that go into why food is the way it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. So of course, I would love to hear what you created from those mashup experiments, but uh, uh, well, first I want to ask you, so you had this curiosity in the kitchen, it sounds like, but did you ever taste something that was just exciting or different or new? Like, do you have a memory of just, I don't know, your first time you had Thai food or a vegetable that just one of the neighbors had that you'd never heard of or something?
I had some friends that their family had immigrated from Cuba, and I would go to their home, and the foods that my friend's mother cooked were, I was like, oh my God, I had never had a jalapeno, you know, and I ate it enthusiastically, not knowing
Right.
what happened next, but still that whole excitement and experience
Yeah.
from something spicy like that that my mother never
Yeah.
ever. My father takes paprika as being spicy, so there was no spicy anything in my house growing up
Yeah.
as a kid.
No, salt and pepper, and then my mom sprinkled a little red paprika on top to perk it up, just for the
Right,
color. Yeah.
right, right. So, tasting this roasted pork that my friend's mother would make with these black beans and traditionally Cuban food isn't you know spicy whatsoever, but there was a little twist that she would put to it, and I that was probably sixth grade where I
Okay.
and before I was working in restaurants, um, and that just it sparked it for me. I was like, wow. Um,
Maybe not spicy, but robust and flavorful.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
More layers than we typically were
yeah,
making in the 70s with meatloaf. And I mean, exotic in my house was spaghetti, you know.
right, right. She would make these yuca cakes that,
Yeah.
and she would explain to me, well, it's kind of like potato. It's kind of like naming every root vegetable that I could possibly identify with at the time. And
Yeah.
I still to this day, when I talked to my buddy Rich, I was like, remember those yuca cakes and the black beans and the pork roast your mom would make? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
He would
Yes.
invite you over when I had left and gone to college, and she knew you were still in the area. She knew you loved it so much.
Yeah. Now, was the diner was your father's or your grandfather's?
My grandfather's.
Did you spend time there? Did you have to work there after school or meet your dad there or hang out when it was, babysitting you were babysat at the diner or something?
Yeah, yeah. My parents would, if they're going into New York, into the city, they'd drop me off there, and I'd be babysat, and that's why I learned to make money initially. Where my grandfather would pay me, I think, 5 cents for every 10 carrots that I peeled or whatever. But I would leave the diner at the end of the night with, I got $1.50 here. That went pretty far back then. Um, right to the candy store I went. Um, but it was a way of, you know, I always tell people food is like your path to freedom and independence.
Hmm.
Once you learn how to cook, no one can ever tell you no. If you know how to do this, you're always going to be able to feed yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I always really try and tell the young people, kids that are young, that just, they watch all the YouTube videos, and I'm like, well, there's much more to it than that. But once you learn this is independence and freedom for you.
Yeah. That $1.50 bought you a nickel candy bar, a dime candy bar, bag of chips, soda, and two comic books, and you still had change.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna jump to jump to the big one. You've worked in restaurants. You weren't quite getting ahead. That's so interesting because you so often hear about culinary school. Well, you're going to be a graduate of culinary school, and they're still going to send you to back to start peeling the carrots and potatoes or whatnot. But
Yeah.
you came from the dining, I guess the more fine dining, they're saying you need that validation, certification, or whatever.
Hmm.
Tell us how many years is the program at Johnson and Wales? Did
Now
you
they
go through
have
the whole thing, or did you just go through a semester or two?
no. I received my associates in culinary arts and my um, bachelor's in food service management, and then I got a small degree just in food service education while I was there. So I knew eventually I'd be too old to be working in a restaurant, and I could still teach. Um, Many
Mm.
years later, you know, I developed this wonderful relationship with Johnson Wales, owning my own business, and they were, you know, people from the university came in one day to my restaurant in Palo Alto. Said, "Hey, we would like to give you an honorary doctorate's degree from our Denver campus." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, interesting."
yeah.
And they said, "And we'd like you to do the commencement speech."
Okay.
So, um, then after that, just the relationship with the school really grew, and I still do a lot of special events with them where they'll call me back to the Providence campus. Um, but it was at the time when I had gone, you either went for the culinary associate's degree or the food service management degree. They had a master's program in hospitality management that at the time I didn't see any value in, and so I just jumped right over that, and they gave me doctorates instead. But there's times I often think about, well, to really round it out and make it complete, that's something I should pursue.
Yeah.
Because I am a huge advocate of always go to school, go to culinary school. I know you're going to think it's a waste of money, but you're going to learn things that you just won't learn from the guys that know. Um, and for a very long time, I was not wanting to go to culinary school. I put in this respect was every day that I'm at school, I'm not making money, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how quickly can I get through that whole program and then get back into the workforce? Um, but I watched a lot of guys struggle in the industry that poo-pooed the schools and just they're not going to teach me anything that I don't already know that you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm sorry you think that way, but that's not the case. And so I I still tell anyone that's interested, or I tell them, I'm like, well, why do you want to do this? I love to cook. I'm like, well, that's the wrong reason because you will not love cooking anymore. You get into this industry, is that the last thing you'll be doing is ever cooking for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where's the chef? They're in the office.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone else is cooking.
right.
Well, this is interesting to me because when I first started Monty's Bakery in the 90s, my first head baker had apprenticed in Switzerland. He was from Switzerland, starting, I don't know, eighth grade, 10th grade probably. And then when we grew to a certain point, we couldn't find anyone else in the States, and we sponsored his friend from Switzerland. So they could cook circles around us, and like the restaurant and hospitality, they could cost the food. I mean, these were the early days of computer, but I mean, they just had organizational and costing and decorative and flavor skills beyond it was a collaboration with me and them because they had the technical skills, I had the wacky ideas, but absolutely the value of the culinary school and the hospitality and the math and all that fun stuff.
The business end of it, the
Yeah.
the the ugly part of the business, that's no.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide it was time to go west, young man? Because this
Uh,
is still on the East Coast, right?
yes, I was recruited while I guess I was done with school, and I was hanging on Providence, and I went to a career thing that where all the different companies come to the university and they recruit people. And I had met one of the recruiters, and they thought you'd be perfect for our company out west. It's like, okay. So then I had an interview with the corporate chef, food and beverage director over the phone. He never met me. I never met him. He told me about all the job description, what it would entail, and where I'd be working out of, and it was the San Francisco Bay Area. My whole reason for wanting to go out west was the Grateful Dead. You know,
Seriously.
yeah.
So you were already a deadhead.
Oh yeah. My first show was 1982 on Easter Sunday. My parents were not happy about that, but
So was this a food service company, like a
yeah,
bonus management kind of a?
it was a company called Restaurant Enterprises Group, and
Okay.
and I, they used to own Gladstones for fish,
Oh, sure. Oh,
LA.
yeah.
A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of big, they used to own El Torito, Caro's, Coco's, uh,
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Brown's. You know,
Sure.
so they had many different levels of what they were doing, and they lured me in and said, "We're going to give you a brand new store in San Ramon. All the other chefs in the area are going to hate you because they've been working in beat up old restaurants, and we're giving you a brand new one. We've never even met you over only over the phone." A couple years later, they made me the trainer in Northern California for all the chefs that were there, and boy, they really did not like me at that point. They're like, "Oh, he's the pet for the corporate guys," and they figured out how to motivate me,
Yeah.
and I was the only guy that wasn't using any of their recipe playbooks. Back then,
Hmm.
they would fax everything up to you. I'd get this long fax of like, this is this month's specials, and like, I'm not doing any of these specials. I'm a chef. I know how to make my own, and they realized I was onto something because I had the greatest percentage of sales of specials in the area for all
Hmm.
their different locations. And then when they did a deep dive into it, like, well, actually, he's only buying the ingredients and inventory that we mandate that he has to use for the specials. And then he's creating his own specials just from the ingredients that we tell him he has to use. And that really had them very perplexed. And so that I'm still friends with that guy to this day. He's like, I just had you do all my R&D work all the time, the things that I thought would work across the board for all the different concepts. I would have you do it all because you were so creative.
Yeah.
And they had figured out, they're like, well, we can incentivize this guy with every recipe that we implement, depending on if it's at Caro's, Coco's, Gladstone's, the LA Music Center, I think it was, that they used to manage as well, where they did the so where they did the Oscars. Where was that? This is your area more in that, right?
The big party at the venue or one of the private part? I mean, it's all moved to the Dolby
It,
Theater in Hollywood, but that's only been there for about the last 20 some years.
yeah,
I'm thinking
so
this was back in the 90s, right? Or still
yeah,
80s.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry. I think it was at one of the big auditoriums downtown Los Angeles.
they had that contract. So and they
Sure.
they told me, you excel in this area for us, we'll move you into where we have less concepts or less locations in that concept where you have a
Yeah.
great reach.
And what was the name of this restaurant in San Ramon?
It was Charlie Brown's Steakhouse.
Unbelievable. Okay.
And
Well,
yeah,
Wolfgang Puck ended up getting the catering contract for the Oscars, but anyway.
right, right.
So, okay, so you're doing this, you're on this fast track. You must have gotten some great recommendations from your professors at culinary school for them to offer this to you sight unseen, even though they had people working for them chomping at the bit locally. So good on you. But you're on this culinary fast. I mean, let's face it, the this kind of corporate chef world is a little bit at odds with a rock and roll chef, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very demanding, a lot of hours, a lot of sacrifice.
So tell us about this. How did the chef deadhead collision, mashup, fusion, infusion, how did that come about?
I got a call one day from a friend of mine that was doing work for the band,
Yeah.
and he said, "Listen, I'm not going to be able to help them out with these shows. I've already told them about you. Just show up at Oakland Coliseum with your whites and prepared to work. Knock on the back door, the loading dock, and back then you could easily do that." And I showed up to help, and they
So
never
the
called.
food and the staff were already there.
Right, exactly. They
Okay.
just
All
needed
right.
some more competent people.
Yeah.
Um, and they never called my buddy back again to ask him to help. And he's like, "You took my role." I'm like, "I did nothing of the sort. I just put my head down and did what I was asked."
Yeah.
And I would still continue to get work. They would call me back. They called the restaurant. And after Jerry had passed, it wasn't that the band members knew me or anything. It was the management that's like, he doesn't give us any hard times. He does what he's supposed to, shows up on time. You have no problems with him.
Yeah.
So that's how my relationship continued with them. Fast forward to 2015 when Dead and Company reformed. I got a call again from management, and I went up to Bobby's studio in Marin at Tri Studios, and I'm talking to Howard Cohen, who was Mickey's manager. He was my contact. He's like, "Why did you call me?" He's like, "Look at this list of chefs we have." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yours was the only name not crossed out in red." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "So do you want to help or you don't?" And it was so I realized at that point it became a big trust factor. Like, who
Yeah.
can we trust? Who's not going to, try and star fuck us and want
Sure.
pictures and everything that all the other guys would do all the time that I'd worked with over the years. And they tell me I'm going to go and it's like, "Okay, you go and do that." It wasn't my job not to tell them not to do it. I've just said, "You won't be back if you go and do this, if you leave." And so it was just being completely professional with them. And I got a lot of material for my next book. It's not just
Well,
one.
but let's go back to the pre-Califia, pre-Google, you were cooking for them.
Yes.
Was that a side gig, occasional, when you had your restaurant job? Did it end up becoming
It, it was
full-time?
it was a side thing where I
Okay.
I helped them. And I was like, "Listen, I have restaurants that I'm responsible to, and I
Yeah.
can help you when I have time." And
Yeah.
I did. And I primarily only helped out in the Bay Area gigs. One time I went to Las Vegas, and one time I went up to, I think it was Eugene, maybe
Yeah.
it was somewhere up north, and
Yeah.
it took away too much from what I was doing at the restaurant at the time.
Yeah.
Where the owner's like, you can't be going to do this. Your
Yeah.
responsibility is here with us."
Yeah.
So, years later when they contact me, I was like, "Hey, I have no desire to go on the road with you at all anymore. This is what I have my own business and I can help you." But and they were fine with that. They were, they gave me what I asked for. Where
Nice. Nice.
because there was plenty of caterers in the Marin area in San Francisco that could have
Yeah.
easily have taken care of.
Yeah.
Because I said I only want to do the stuff for them while they're in the studio before they go on the road.
Okay.
So
Oh, nice. But you got to see them perform live, yes?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There was sometimes watching them learn a song over and over and over again. Like when
Yeah.
John had joined the band,
Yeah.
one time they're like, "He's locked himself in the catering van and he does not want to hear us play Here Comes Sunshine one more time today." Because they're like, "You're the only person that's a non-employee band member. We set up a chair in the middle of the room so you can listen to us play." And I'm like, I don't want to do that, but they had to have someone to bounce it off of.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just being in the right place at the right time and being that professional that, people hire you to be.
They were known for having a pretty large entourage. How many people were you cooking for? And I know you had a team of people and a crew with you, but
So you would have the band, all their members, you know, the crew, and then guests. And fortunately for me, they had most of the venues that they would go to. The venue would take care of all the band, VIP, those people.
okay.
But I was still like Bobby had told me to my face one time. He's like, you're not cooking for me, you're cooking for the crew. And I would rather see you make something that they love because if
Oh,
they're,
nice.
we're happy and we have no problems. So I redesigned all the menus to what I knew the crew members loved to eat. Um,
Nice. So that shows such respect for the people that allow them to do what they do.
yeah, I mean, when I, when John had first joined on with them, I met his management and they said, well, John eats differently than the Grateful Dead does. I'm like, how so? He doesn't use his hands. He's like, no, he likes foods cooked fresh to order, and he likes to have an action station, and he doesn't eat from a buffet.
Hmm.
Okay, so we looked at his rider and met all those needs along with the bands.
Yeah.
And one of the first times we were feeding them, I go to find John, and he's nowhere to find. I find his manager. I'm like, where's John? He's like, oh, he's in the lunchroom meeting with the band. Okay, so I go in there and I talk to him. I'm like, hey, I have your chicken breast and your penny pasta and your tomato concasse I want for, and he's like, do they eat like this all the time? This type of menu? I'm like, yeah. He's like, forget about my rider. I'm very good with this.
Oh no. Oh wow. That's a testament. That's a
Yeah,
testament to the quality of cooking you were already doing.
yeah. So it was, and it made him happy. He was living in a trailer behind the studio because they didn't want him staying at hotels in Marin. So he was living in this trailer, and I'd get in there super early in the morning, and we had breakfast, lunch, dinner, all three meals for the crew all day. And one of the things they always wanted was breakfast smoothies. And I remember him coming out of his trailer, looking at me. It's 7 a.m. Why are you running that blender? I'm like, well, I have smoothies and everything to make. Next day he came in. He had bought me four silent blenders. I see these Amazon boxes that's are addressed to John Mayer. I'm like, I go and knock on his trailer. I'm like, hey, dude, they dropped off your boxes in the kitchen by mistake. And he's like, oh no, those are for you.
Those,
I'm
those
like, what
are
are they?
your
He's like,
blender silencers. Those are your smoothie silencers.
yeah. And I'm like, what are they? He's like, open up the box, you'll see.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had those at my restaurant in my juice bar,
Yeah.
the blend tech ones where you put the lid on top and you don't hear anything going on.
If you remember, if you ever lived in LA, the coffee bean and tea leaf used to be a really big deal. And they had that thing that came down over the blender because
Yes.
otherwise that place would have just been this constant reverberation because their
Right.
main thing was their ice blended. That was, especially in LA weather, that was their thing. And that thing that really did muffle the sound.
Yeah. And it was just, I found it just so funny that
Yeah.
he's like, I want to sleep longer and I don't want to hear these blenders.
I don't blame them. So, okay, so this is where I'm going to insert a little bit about sort of our history. And I'm not going to worry too much about the timeline because you've got so many interesting things going on. Obviously, I want to kind of talk soon about your time with Google, but I remember meeting you. I was hired 2 years in a row to run the kitchen at the Harmony Festival.
Hmm.
Prior to that, the Harmony Festival kitchen was entirely run by volunteers. If you can imagine, the Harmony Festival attracted thousands of people. There were hundreds of people that needed to be fed, some volunteers, some paid. There were some pretty good musical names there. And the first year I did it, there was a really great chef named Gordon and his girlfriend at the time, Reparata, who was the backup singer for Barry Manilow. They were an awesome power couple and they helped me run the kitchen. So, with whatever volunteers we had, no problem. And everybody there was like, oh my God, we have real people in the kitchen. So I went to do it the next year. No Gordon, no Reparata, just me and volunteers. But they had hired you to do this big dinner.
Right.
And you came in the kitchen with your like serious chefness, and I kind of knew about you. And I think there was a moment where I was like, "Oh no, what's going to go on here?" And I think you quickly sussed me out, and I realized, okay, he knows what I'm doing, but I'm over my head because I have like no help. And then things settled in, and you put on a great dinner for all the whatever the people that the VIPs for that. And when I remember really bonding with you and your team is on the side of the stage, it was either Michael Fronte or War.
It was zero.
Was it?
Yeah.
I just remember seeing you guys on the side of the stage, and it's like, of course, all the chefs who love to work hard and make good food are up there, no matter how late it is at night, how tired
Right.
they are, soaking up the music from the side of the stage.
Yeah, it was Steve Kimmock and Zero.
There were some other bands that year too, because I know I've seen War and Michael Frente at that stage. But anyway,
Yeah,
yes, no matter once everyone was done working, they weren't going to miss out on the good music. So yeah, definitely Steve
exactly.
Tillman. So all right, so you've got this great gig with doing this thing with the band, but you've also got your job. How did you get picked to be one of the, audition for the Google team?
I was dating a young lady at the time. Her office mate's wife worked in PR at Google.
Mhm.
And and at that time I was cooking for a very wealthy family privately, going wherever they went, and I hated them. And I'm pretty certain they didn't like me, but they liked my food. And I was just like, this is, I don't like this life at all. Um, and girl I was dating, she's like, well, so and so's wife works at this search engine. I said, what do you mean, like search engine? Like, like Lycos, and Ask Jeeves. I'm like,
That's
you know,
Jeeves.
and I'm like, okay. And they gave me the woman that worked at the PR at Google and her husband and my girlfriend, and the four of us went out to dinner. And I just started grilling them, asking her, well, what is it they eat? And she was like, oh, we order this, we order that, we order, we like these foods. And so I just wrote all that down. And then they were just about to end their search for a chef. And I had sent a care package of baked goods and like a jar of lemon curd and a jar of caramel, all things that I made to go with the scones and everything that I'd sent. And they kept going to the wrong person. And she wasn't saying anything at the company. She's like, I just keep receiving these scones and all this stuff from this chef. And they're like, who? And she mentioned, like, oh, that's the guy we've been trying to get in touch with. So I came in the very last end, right after they had already tried out plenty of other chefs.
Yeah.
And when I had gotten to what they thought was a fantastic kitchen, it was all electric and old and antiquated, and it was in one of the old tech buildings in Bayshore Road in Mountain View. And none of the chefs that had tried out previously had cleaned up after themselves the whole run. And Google didn't realize that they should go in and check to see if everything, because they didn't have anyone to use the cafeteria, the cafe. So they were just leaving that part of the building alone until they had another tryout. So I literally had to spend the first couple hours I was there cleaning up all the messes that had been left. And I'm talking like biology experiment mess.
Mm,
You open the refrigerator. I'm
mm.
like, oh, look at all the different colors of mold. Um, so it was, and one of my coworkers, she ended up later becoming one of my coworkers. She had told me, she's like, we kept going in there to check on you. And she's like, he's not cooking, he's cleaning. So they were confident they were going to come into nothing for lunch. But I had done all my mise en place and all my prep up in my little studio up in
Okay.
the hills of Woodside the night before, from all the information they had fed me from that when I had gone out to dinner with that couple. Where I was using my ironing board as a prep table. You ever try and prep on an ironing board? Um, so I made all the different dishes that I was made aware of that were their big hits, where they loved Indian food, they loved California cuisine, they loved Southwestern food, they loved Asian food. So I made a menu of all these different flavors.
Yeah.
I remember every Google employee that was coming through at that time, they're like, this is exactly what we love to eat. How did you know?
Ah,
And where all the other chefs were trying to be big and chefy and like, I'm going to make you eat, reindeer and rabbit and things like that. These people were right out of college. They
yeah.
didn't really know what cuisine was yet.
Yeah.
They would have been more happy with burritos and corn dogs. Um, but that, I nailed it on there. on the flavors that they love to eat. And I remember Sergey Brin, one of the founders, and I had not met him yet. I had met Larry in an interview previously when they were still in the bicycle shop on University Avenue. And so Sergey comes in and he's got no shoes on, and I don't know who he is. And it's late in the day, and I was like, "You can't come in here without any shoes." He's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "It's not safe." So he's listening to this guy who's trying out. He's like, "What do you mean it's not safe?" And I explained all the reasons. He's like, "Okay, all right, that makes, I accept that." So he comes back with shoes on, and we're very wiped out at that point. Not much left in the menu. And I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we had a very strong day of participation today." He's like, "It's no problem. This," he's like, "I hate to have to make decisions." He's like, "The decision has been made for me. This is what I have to eat, and this is what I'm eating."
Yeah.
He sat there and ate and had his different group meetings. And right before he left, he comes to me and he says, "Whoever you work for right now is going to be very upset when you leave."
Oh, nice.
And he just, and one of the employees is like, "That's one of the founders of the company."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and then it took them forever to get back to me, almost like 2 months.
Yeah.
And when they did get back to me, I was busy with the family and they were having all these plans and things that, I don't want to make them upset, even though I don't really care for them. Um, and back and forth with the person from Google that called me, and he said, "Hey, listen, I understand and I appreciate that you're dedicated and you're professional and you want to, continue to have a good relationship with this family." He said, "Do you want the job or not?" I said, "Absolutely." He's like, "Then I'll see you on Monday." And this was Thursday.
Oh,
And I wanted to
you
give
knew
them
you couldn't give them 2 weeks notice.
right. And I hang up the phone, I go to my girlfriend, I'm like, "I'm burning a bridge."
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, hopefully it lights your way."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those people were just so horrible. They had me buy cookbooks for everything that I made for them because they're like, "Real chefs just don't make things up. They follow cookbooks." I said, "Oh, interesting." So
Yeah.
she had me buy her whole library of cookbooks that I
Yeah.
had to buy. She sent the sheriffs to my house that night because I'd gone in to give notice, and she was such a horrible person to me that day. And she's like, "Plans have changed. We're not doing Tuscany tonight. Texas barbecue for 40 people. Be ready, mister." I'm like, "Okay." I was
Yeah.
coming in to be professional, give you my notice. So I watched, they had everything under surveillance in that home.
Yeah.
So I watched her drive away and the gates closed to the home. I packed up all my stuff, driving off the property. I threw my keys to Juan, the houseman. I was like, "Bye bye, Juan." And he's just
Yeah.
said, like, "Oh, well, there goes another one."
Yeah.
He sent the sheriffs to my house that night while we're celebrating having champagne. And the sheriffs are like, I tell them the thing, and they're like, "Listen, I've been dealing with this lady for a long time. You're not the first chef that has walked out on them. I
Uh,
just show me receipts." And I showed him all my Amazon receipts for all the cookbooks. And he's like, "That's all I needed to say. Go back
yeah.
to having a good time."
So let's go. Well, a couple of things about the research that you did for the meal at Google. It's interesting. Well, let me ask a clarifying question because you couldn't just say, well, this is the Grateful Dead's favorite. No, you wanted to do the research of what these people were looking for. To
Right.
clarify, Jerry had already passed when you worked for the Dead, right?
I worked one show with him.
Oh,
And
okay.
then after that, he had passed. And
Yeah. So the other chefs were doing chefy food. You didn't just go in and say, well, this is what the Grateful Dead eats. You had done that research to find out what age group these people were, just out of college, maybe ethnicities, favorites, So
Mhm.
you went in there, like they said, like how did you know that we like to eat that way? The
I,
story, sorry, go ahead.
I told him it was just a hunch. I mean, like, doesn't
Yeah,
everybody eat?
that's how good I am. I'm just intuitive.
Yeah.
And I love the story you told about I forget if it was Larry or Sergey. That was the Charlie I met at the Harmony Festival. It wasn't important or unimportant to you that I had no one but me in the kitchen and volunteers. Food safety. I remember there was a temperature control issue for the food, and I realized, oh, he's not pulling a power trip. He's just literally wants to make sure that the food is held at a safe temperature. So
Right.
he's not going to end up, hurting anyone. And I was like, and we're going to make this work. Whatever is going to happen here, we're just going to pull that off. So I hope that at least I think some mutual respect was established there. So, okay, so you go to work for them, but they only have 40 employees, right?
Hmm.
So what's day one like? Do you start hiring a team? You said this kitchen was all electric? Did
It
you
was electric, an
what's
old antiquated kitchen that they hadn't used for a long time. The building had been vacant for a while. Um, so there was a steamer, there was an electric grill that I actually installed it and put in an electric grill because they were getting bored. They're like, all our foods are either baked or roasted or seared on the plancha or steamed. And they're like, can we grill some food? So we did that. And I did as many things as I possibly could with the space I had to work with.
sure?
But I really, again, I didn't really start cooking immediately. I was there for, a good couple weeks, just building my foundation, getting everything set up so I could do that. And
Sure.
finally, the guy that brought me on, he said to me, he's like, "Hey, they're getting restless. We've been
Yeah.
ordering catering. You've been here for 2 weeks. This isn't a sitcom. We need you to start cooking." It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, what do you want to do? We don't have vendors. You specifically told me you want to use Webvan as your primary vendor. We broke Webvan. Google did by
Yeah.
going against all their. I was like, who else is spending $75,000 with you on an order? Like no one. I'm like, so I think you can deliver to me on my terms, not what you mandate. We actually ended up buying some of their old vans. Um,
Mm.
but so the first run of food, we went to Costco and bought a couple big carts full of food, filled up the refrigerators and freezers. And the guy I'm working for, he's like, "What are you gonna make?" I'm like, "I don't know. I've got a pretty big inventory here. I can figure it out." And he's like, "That's how you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, look at a pile of food and I can tell you what I can make from it." And, so we just started building on that. And that went on for a couple months, just me doing all the prep, all the cooking, all the cleaning, everything. And the company had grown a little bit by that time. Maybe it was like 60, 65, 70 people. And, but they were growing the company as much as I could keep up with cooking. And I was like, I'm getting beat here. I
Was
need
it primarily lunch?
only lunches at that time.
Okay. All right.
They were happy to eat anything left over for dinner. Um, but they're like, well, what can we do? I'm like, I need help. They're like, it's only like 60, 70 people you're cooking
Yeah,
for.
only
I'm like, have you done the prep to
prep, clean, cook,
they
plan.
had no idea. And they're like, okay. So I hired one of the girls away from the janitorial company. And she's like, I don't know how to. I'm like, don't worry. I'm going to teach you. And she was afraid of knives and all that. That woman is such a good chef to the
Oh
nowadays.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it took them a couple months of, is he dead yet? No, we haven't killed him. All right, let's get him some help. But they really, truly grew the company on my ability to keep up and excel past keeping up, where they're like, we can have guests now. He's not just limited to, he's got it really dialed in. There's only three of them back there. And I brought in a good friend of mine from Seattle that I'd gone to school with. And I was like, dude, I'm not bringing you in for your culinary abilities. He's like, why are you bringing me in? I was like, I can trust you.
Hmm.
And that is the biggest part. And trust goes, and I'm like, if I can't trust someone, that means I have to be here all the time. And I don't want to be here all the time. And, so we split the thing down the middle, where I was like, you take care of desserts and dinner menu. I'll do soups, appetizers, salads, and lunch menu.
And
And
did you lay things out buffet style at lunch? Like you
yes,
were saying, steam table and
yeah.
people kind of came by cafeteria style and got their lunch and that was it?
So I didn't allow them just to come in when they wanted. And I was like, listen, this is when we're serving from this time to this time,
Sure.
not before it.
Right.
And we really trying to control a group of people that were not used to being controlled. You know,
And they would grow less controlled over time, I'm assuming.
a lot of them that because they were so intelligent, they're like, I don't really feel comfortable listening to someone that wears an apron. Like where they would say that to my face. And
Ah,
I'm like, is that a backhanded, what is that? What, and they're like,
right.
well, you're just your level of education is less than ours. I'm like, okay. So I called a couple of these engineers on their shit. I said, I would love for you to come in and help me because you seem to think that I don't know how to do this one certain dish. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, you're nice and mouthy to all your friends and you like to get the chuckle patch going on. You're coming in the kitchen. And they were overwhelmed. They're like, how do you do all this? I'm like, math. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is all has to be math. I can't just say, oh, this amount of food is going to feed these,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a formula to all of this.
Yeah.
And they were so amazed by that. So different engineers would come in and want to work with me all the time because they never knew how to really launch product on time. And the different department heads are like, this guy launches on time every day, regardless of what's going on. He's the only thing we can count on in this company. He's like, the rest of you are overly paid and you get too granular about things that where this should have been out to market or launched a while ago. Does it? So they start having me give tech talks to all the different engineers on how to be more efficient. And I was like, you need to remove the level of emotion out of what you're doing and just get it done. They're like, but I'm like, no, you can't. And they're like, what do you mean not attaching emotion to your work? So I'm like, nothing is ever going to be perfect. And you have to always accept that small variance of imperfection. And that was one of the things that really helped me excel with them was they understood that after a while.
Did it start to grow like steadily and slowly? Was it exponential? Like how?
It was like a hockey stick.
Uh,
Went
yeah.
completely up. And had they not given me the ability to, I started poaching good chefs from all kinds of different restaurants locally in the area. I was like, hey, listen, you're going to take a little bit of a cut and pay, but you're going to have quality of life that you currently do not have now.
Oh,
And they're,
because it's daytime job. It's not like evening burnout
yeah,
till
and
midnight or whatever.
weekends off. And
Yeah.
I had, I talked to a lot of really good chefs and mostly in the peninsula area,
Sure.
some from Santa Cruz, to come and join me. And were guys that were normal leaders and chefs of their own businesses. They're like, it's been a long time since I've had to listen to someone. I'm like, it's okay. Listen, eventually you're going to be in charge here. I'm not going to be here forever. Because they, the guys I was working with that brought me in, they said, this is the roadmap. This is what we
Yeah.
see you doing. And you should do this in the next 6 years because we're going to go public and things are going to change and it's not going to be that fun place that we
Uh,
currently have right now. So figure it out, build the roadmap, and
yeah.
time to leave, leave.
So roughly say let's 2 years in, then suddenly how many people do you have working with on your team after maybe the first 2 or 2.5 years, or whenever it's like,
That's probably 2001, 2002. I had probably about 10 people working with me,
okay.
where I had a big 18-wheeler kitchen parked in front of it took up 32 parking spots. And people they're like, where's my parking spot? There's a trailer parked up
Yeah.
out front. I was like, that's my kitchen in there.
Yeah.
And
You want to eat?
we had, we had bought some of the refrigerated containers from the Port of Oakland,
Yeah.
and those are my walk-in refrigerators. And
Yeah.
the Board of Health tried to give us such a hard time on so many things, and the lawyers are like, it clearly states in your law places that sell food. We don't sell food. You don't have any place here with us.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but eventually, the founder Larry would say to me, he's like, I need you to do this, this, and this. I'm like, we need permitting. He's like, this is our property. This is our
Yeah.
land. We need to get any permit. And I was like, hey, listen, this is my game. This is what I do. And eventually I'm not going to be with you anymore. And they're going to remember me and give me a hard time,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they did. Years
Yeah.
later, I had Calafia. The Board of Health inspector's like, I remember you. You're from Google. You had the most immaculately clean, organized kitchens I had ever seen. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's like, of course you kept us waiting in the reception area for an hour and 45 minutes until it got this way. But, you know, it was something completely different that hadn't been done yet.
So let's say 4 years in, then how many people do you have?
4 years, probably over 50 because we had
On your team, your staff alone.
just my
Okay.
team. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but they were just growing, they were growing the international teams and everything
Sure.
and bringing in everyone from different countries that they knew were going to eventually send back to run Germany or Japan or England so they were all it was growing fairly quick and it was a challenge.
Well, by then, are you doing breakfast and dinner and all day snacks?
No breakfast. Breakfast happened when we moved to the big campus when we took over the
Yeah.
SDI campus over
Sure.
on Garcia.
Yeah.
Um, but before that, while we were still at the old campus, and we'd taken over a bunch of other buildings, we had probably a half a dozen buildings in that area that were taking
Sure.
over Intuit and other companies. Um, it was it was it was high quality, high volume
Yeah.
food that we
Yeah.
were doing.
I think when I visited there, it was after your tenure, but yeah, they had breakfast, they had a raw vegan counter, they had pizza. I mean, it was like a food court, but
Yeah,
everything's you could have whatever you wanted,
yeah, that was
any time
Charlie's
of
place.
day. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Well, okay, then let me ask you, how do you can you give us tips on working with people? Because you went from a staff of 10 to 40, you've already been working in restaurants, you've done catering, like you've got to have a certain finesse in communicating and keeping a cohesive group together. And I know that that's one of the biggest questions the food or I should say one of the biggest struggles food entrepreneurs that I work with have in management and team building and just communicating.
It's, it took me a while to get to this place where, I realized everyone responds differently. I can't
Hmm.
teach or treat the whole team the same way. Where, yeah, I can address an issue, everyone understands what my need is and what I want done, but I had to touch base with each and every individual and treat and talk to them differently. Where
Hmm.
some wanted to be hugged while others wanted to be verbally abused or because depend it's just how they are. Um, and that's I had to understand like how do I get the most out of each one of them. I have to treat each one of them differently. I can't make this blanket policy and expect everyone to be on the same page with me. So
Oh,
a lot of patience.
yeah. No, that sounds so. All right. So was that so you had this 6 year plan? And is that when you decided it was time to move on and then go and do Calafia? Or was it that clear 6 year demarcation or was there some other signal like it's just, my chapter's ending here? Or what was how did that transition come about?
I had come up around that time frame and just and they could see that oh he's really we had to throw him a bone or do something to incentivize him to not want to leave us because at that point the company had just gone public and things had changed and you were watching they were bringing in more suits and not people in flip-flops and shorts anymore. I was like, oh, the culture is changing. I had just gotten engaged at the time and they said, well, I had had it with them and I was like, I gave my notice and they're like, well, someone like we need 6 months out of you. You can't just leave in 3 weeks. Like, okay, why not? And they're like, well, you're a big part of our culture and we rely on you. How about we send you to Europe and you open all the European offices for us and help us find your replacement? I'm like, you want me to help you find my replacement? Yes. I'm like, that's really, no one does that. And they're like, well, we do. Um, and that was an endeavor that proved to not work well for them because they
Hmm.
they brought in probably 8 guys after I'd left to to run my thing, to do what I was doing, and not one of them. They all were quickly let go or quit. Uh,
Yeah.
there was only one smart chef that came in afterwards that was smart enough to call me up and said, "I don't understand this thing you created. Can I come by and talk to you at your restaurant?" And so I can really. And he was the one that made it happen because he was smart enough
Yeah.
because they were all like, I don't need to listen to this clown.
Right. No, of course not. Yeah. No. Yeah. Everything that happened before me was lame, but I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well. Oh, well. So you kind of developed. You must have. I often ask entrepreneurs, how did you develop the fearless quality to become an entrepreneur? But your entrepreneur spirit kind of grew over time.
it did. It did. And whether Google knew it or not, they kind of fostered that
Yeah.
entrepreneurial platform for, because they already had a program where everyone in the tech sector of the company was allowed 20% of their time at the company to be spent on a project that they felt would benefit humanity or the immediate good and culture of the area that they lived in.
Yeah.
So you had all these brilliant minds just doing their 20% while still at work. And a lot of them have said, well, what are you going to do when you leave here? You're not going to stay here forever. Um, you should start thinking about what you can do and allow us to help you learn that while you're here, still here working with us. So I took advantage of that and went to every workshop or anything that the company sponsored for the employees, where I jokingly say, I was like, I got my master's degree at Google,
Yeah.
because just
Yeah.
being invited to all these different programs, and they paid for me to learn how to speak effectively and confidently public speaking.
Yeah.
They're like, you're our poster boy. We need you to be able to convey and communicate to the public. And so that was one of the things that they're like, he's really good at public speaking and he loves to talk about himself.
So, how long a break did you have between Google and opening Calafia?
2 years.
Okay, that's reasonable to me. I'm sure there's the build out period, and there's also like you don't want to race right into something and try to get it open in 6 months or whatever.
No,
Hopefully,
I was
a
busy
bit of
writing a
a,
cookbook.
huh?
I was busy writing a cookbook in that
There you
time.
go. All right. Well, so were there any big shocks into running your own restaurant other than it being smaller than Google? But did you pretty much have a plan in place, or what other big, things surprised you that you wished you could have told your younger self to look out for when running your own, because it was your own business now. There was
Yeah.
a bigger entity that.
I was the principal of the company and I had the most invested in it, even though I raised, you know, $5 million from outside investment. I had to seed it with some of my own money.
Of course.
And one of the things that I learned, and it still to this day amazes me, is all my opening management team, I gave them all a piece of the action
Yeah,
and were incentivized. I'm like,
nice.
you have profit sharing with me.
Yeah,
And this is as much your business as it is mine. And they were all such, unfortunately, knuckle draggers that didn't realize that
yeah,
that the poor decision that you make affects the whole entire business.
yeah,
I only had one guy that stayed with me for 10 years. And when I closed the business down and everything, I was like, here's a check. He's like, you already paid me out. I'm like, no, you were the only one that stayed the whole time. And
yeah,
you got a piece of the profit.
yeah.
But it was thinking that I was surprised that people weren't as smart as I thought they would be when you are giving them an opportunity to make their life better and their family's life better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was fortunate to eat at Calafia several times. And then one time you invited me down, I think it was a fundraiser dinner.
Yes.
That
Yep.
was really fun. Even remember the dessert I did. I have pictures of it with roast honey and red wine, roasted fruit, Napoleons, and blah, blah, blah. And then a couple years later, you invited me. I donated a cake when I had Sweet Bar for a backyard concert with Bobby Weir in Mill Valley. So
Yep.
that was just beyond cool and fun and special. So thank you. Well, let me ask you a couple things then. We're kind of rounding down to our hour. I could keep talking forever. I want to ask you, so your email sign off refers to Minglewood Hospitality.
New
What are you
Minglewood
doing
Hospitality.
now?
That is my consulting company.
Okay.
Um, and no one had a name like that out there. So I was like, why not? Um, so I help people with their problems.
Sure.
where there's a lot of times like, oh, I want a restaurant again. It's like slap in the face. No, you
Yeah.
don't. Um, but there's people that reach out to me and tell me, everywhere from plant-based to restaurants to manufacturing, I need your help. So this gig that I've accepted, and today's only day one. It's for a private school here in Los Angeles, and the students and the faculty, they already know why I'm there, and they're excited about it. Listen,
Cool.
we haven't done anything yet, but it's when you have a captivated audience and people are there all day long, food really needs to be part of the culture of keeping people there, keeping them captivated and excited, and not wanting to leave property. So that's what I'm helping them recreate the wheel for them.
Okay. What do you do to avoid burnout? Or maybe I should, hopefully your life isn't as crazy as it was, but what have you done over the years to avoid burnout? And I know it's a tough question to ask chefs because often there's nothing.
Yeah, no, I've learned to find things that give me joy
Mm.
and that I can control. So gardening,
Oh,
I have
okay.
absolute control of everything I put in that dirt. And if I don't like it, I can pull it out. So gardening, it's really become a thing that it puts me in a place where it's like, okay, I can. It's it's what I do now. Like when I'm not, smoking pastrami or anything like that.
Edible gardening, ornamental, flowers, both?
Vegetables for the most part.
Okay.
I do grow quite a bit of flowers as well that benefit the vegetables that I'm growing. Um, but yeah, that's what I do now.
Okay, so the most important question is, how many times did you see the Grateful Dead?
It's just over 200 times, you know, just the Grateful Dead, probably Dead and Company 100 times as well.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That you are a true deadhead and you transcend the typical image or comprehension of who and what a deadhead is. Okay. Well, thank you, Charlie, for being here. It's been a delight talking to you,
Me
and
too.
hopefully we can have you some other time, or maybe one of the classes we lead, and maybe we get a group of chefs that we can have you address. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you. I love you, brother.
All right. Love you too. All
Take care.
right. Thanks, everybody. Another episode of Food Foundry series. Peace out.